All right, ladies and gentlemen and programmers, we're going to do Greenfoot Chapter 1, the second part, Asteroids. All right, same thing. Red text means stop. Green text means go. Do what I say. Orange text means, never, that was old. We don't do that anymore. If you see the sissy blue color, it means to print out the handouts and take the note on the handout. Let's see here. Okay, so get out your handout. If you don't have it, print out your handout, and you should have a section of it that looks like this. And I want you to write this in. The arrow shows an is a relationship. Space is a subclass of world. Hit pause on this video, write that in, and let's talk about that. All right, pause and go. Okay, so the arrow shows an is a. So that means space is a world. Explosion is a actor. Mover is a actor. Asteroid is a mover, and therefore, because asteroid is a mover, it is also an actor. Space is a subclass of world. So space is a subclass of world. Okay. And in the same way, rocket is a subclass of mover. Mover is a subclass of actor. Therefore, rocket is a mover and it is also an actor. Now, it's not the reverse. So a mover is an actor, but actor is not a mover, and mover is not a rocket, if that makes sense. Bye, son. Okay, so what I want you to do is play Asteroids. So if you don't, so go ahead and download that project. If you don't know how to download it, you're gonna have to ask me, and then I want you to play Asteroids. So you're gonna have to add a rocket. You're gonna have to add 3 asteroids. If you hit Shift, it allows you to add more, and then hit Go, and then just play Asteroids. Okay, see if you can use the arrow keys in the space bar to shoot, and see if you can play Asteroids. Okay, there seems to be a problem with the rocket. Right after you play it a little bit, there's a problem with the rocket. What would you change about the rocket to help you get a better score? Answer this on lined paper. Answer this on lined paper. What would you change about the rocket to get a better score? Hit pause, answer that, and then continue. Okay, so if it were me, I would try to make the spaceship shoot faster without making the asteroids move faster, right? So look, you can come over here and hit run, and you can go like this and shoot faster, but the asteroids also move faster. So how did you do it? Okay, so how can you make the spaceship shoot faster without the asteroid shooting faster? Okay, answer that. Okay, so what you can do is let's add in a new rocket. What you could do, and let's turn this down, is you can right click on the rocket and you can invoke set gun reload time. All right, and so set it to 5. Okay, and hit go. And now when you hit run, whoo, that's loud. It shoots faster. But the asteroids don't move faster. Okay, so invoke the set gun reload time method and set the gun reload to 5. Okay, so let's start from scratch here. Let's hit reset. Okay, so you're going to add your rocket. Okay, you're going to add asteroid. 3 asteroids like that. Okay, then you're going to right click and you're going to set the gun reload time. You're going to hit 5. Okay, and click OK. Then you're going to see, I want you to remove all the asteroids in the least amount of shots. Now, we did this in class. If you're doing this at home, it's not going to be as exciting. But at any rate, figure out how many shots does it take to clear all the asteroids? And then how did you find out the number of shots fired? Well, I'm going to give you a hint here. If you right click and say int get shots fired, it tells it, oh, close. Well, let me hit run and then pause. And now I'm going to int get shots fired. I had 2 shots. Okay, so figure out how many shots it takes you to kill all the asteroids. By the way, just kind of a reminder. So we have a void method, right? So that means it's a command. We have an int method that's non-void. That means it's a question. How many shots did you fire? And has an integer return type. It's going to answer the questions. How many shots did you fire with an integer, which is a whole number. Okay, this is a question, and it's going to answer the question with an integer. It has an integer return type. This has a void return type. Therefore, it is a command. Just as a little reminder. Okay. Okay, the rocket moves right from the start. What is its initial speed? How do you find out the initial speed? So see if you can figure that out. And the way you find out its initial speed is you put in a brand new rocket and you right click and you say get speed, and its initial speed is 3. Okay, now if I hit the up arrow and give it a little gas, it's going to change. That speed's going to change. Okay, asteroids have an inherent stability. Each time they get hit by a bullet, their stability decreases. When it reaches 0, they break up. What is their initial stability value after you create them? How much does the stability decrease from a single hit by a bullet? I'm not going to show you how to do that. You're going to have to figure that out by yourself. I bet you can do it. And answer those questions in your lined paper notes. Okay, make a ginormous asteroid. What is the return type? What is the parameter data type? Okay, so make a ginormous asteroid. Make sure you know how to do it. And the question is, so if I, okay, so I'm going to add in, I'm going to right click on the asteroid and I'm going to say set size, in size. So I'm going to say 300. Click OK. Right, I can make the asteroid bigger. Now, let's okay, so we're going to say, so we have void set size. Okay, so on this one, it has a void return type. It's a command, set the size. But on this one, so these have, that has an empty parameter, empty parameter. This one has a parameter, this has a parameter. So it has have to pass in additional data. So when I say set the size, it's like, well, what size do you want? And you can't say type in the word big, that wouldn't work. You couldn't type in the number 300, you have to put in an integer. It has to be the number 300. So when I click on it, the only thing that's going to work is a 300. If I type in the number 300 or something, it's going to say it can't use that. That won't work. It has to be an integer number. Okay. All right. Now let's look at this question. What is the return type? Well, it's a command. It's a void return type. It's not a question. It's a command. And then what is the parameter data type? The parameter data type is integer. You have to pass in additional data to tell it what size as an integer. Okay. So what I want you to do is write this down in your notes. Source code is written in Java. Every class is defined by source code. It defines what objects the class can do. Write this down. Computers can't understand Java, so we must compile, convert it from Java into machine language. All right, let me explain that to you. Okay, what that means is source code is written in Java. So if I double click on the rocket class, I'm going to look at its source code, and this code right here is written in the Java programming language. Okay, that's what that means. Okay, next, every class is defined by source code. All right, so I just clicked on the rocket class, and basically it says, hey, public rocket. So from here, no, it says public rocket. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. From here down to here is the source code that defines here's how you build a rocket. Here's what a rocket does. Okay, so the class is defined by a source code. Computers can't understand Java, so we must compile, convert it from Java to machine language. All right. So eventually, you're going to be able to understand all of this stuff, right? Okay. So this all makes sense to me because I've done it. Okay. But it doesn't actually make sense to the computer. So what happens? So let's say, for example, I change this from 25 to 5. All right, and I hit. So I have to compile it, and this actually gets turned into machine language, into ones and zeros, and then the computer can actually understand that. So we have to compile our Java into machine language for the computer to understand it. Let's change that back to 25, if that makes any sense. Okay, so now remember, okay, so here's what happened. So one day, I went on Craigslist, and I saw I used to watch the show Magnum PI when I was a kid, and I loved the Magnum PI Ferrari, and I like, oh my gosh, there's a Magnum PI Ferrari on Craigslist. So, and it was cheap, and I bought it, and it was awesome. Except for I was driving around in my Magnum PI Ferrari. I thought it was super cool, and I pull up to the stoplight, and I look over, and there's this punk kid in like an old Subaru, and he like revs his engine, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let this punk kid in the Subaru do that to me. So I rev my engine, the light turns green, and I hit the gas, and I take off. And all of a sudden, I hear this car next to me go, woo! And then all of a sudden, he just takes off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that kid had turbochargers. So this punk kid with a turbocharged Subaru beat my Magnum PI Ferrari, right? So what do? I'm like, I can't let this happen. So I go home and I go on to Amazon and I buy 2 turbochargers. And I put the 2 turbochargers on my Ferrari, right? Same thing happens next time. My Ferrari, by the way, this time is super fast, right? So the next thing I know, same thing happens a couple days later. Kid pulls up in his Subaru. I have my Ferrari. The light turns green. I take off, right? We're neck and neck. And all of a sudden, my turbochargers, twin turbochargers, kick in, and I take off and I beat him, right? And so everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, that twin turbocharged Ferrari is great." So the next day, like 100 people show up in my driveway, all with their Magnum PI Ferraris, and they're like, "Hey, can you put turbochargers on my Magnum PI Ferrari?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it takes forever. So like it takes 3 months for me to put turbochargers on 1,000 Ferraris or whatever it was, right? Okay, so a couple things. That story is not true, and also don't drag race cars at stoplights, or don't drag race cars at all. But at any rate, but the story, let's pretend like that story was true. All right, so you can buy a car and then later add a turbocharger, right? But what would be the fastest way to get 1,000 cars with a turbocharger? Okay, see if you can answer that question. What would be a way more efficient way to get 1,000 cars with a turbocharger? And by the way, this is kind of a hint. Well, okay, see if hopefully you answered that. And the answer would be, well, the faster way would be to just get the blueprint, add turbochargers on the blueprint, take it to the factory, and just have them make the car with turbochargers. Okay, if that makes sense. All right. So now, how does that make any sense? All right. It's because in the same way, hold on, let's get this over here. Okay, so in the same way, right, I could add a rocket, okay, and I could say, oh, let's change the gun reload time and let's set it to 5 and click OK, right? And then it's like, oh, I now want another rocket, and I could make a new rocket, and I could right click and I could set the gun reload time to 5, right? And I could just keep doing that over and over again. But like the reality is, if I just want all my rockets to have a gun reload time of 5, let's just change the blueprint. Okay, so when I hit run on this, these are fast, but if I do another one and hit run, so this one is slow, so I have to modify each one. So what I can do is I can go into the blueprint. I can double click on the rocket. I can go into the blueprint, okay, and I can go down here where it says gun reload time equals 25, and I can change it to 5, right? So now the blueprint says every rocket you make from the factory is going to have a gun reload time of 5, okay? So now I come over here, and every time I add a new rocket, it's automatically faster, okay? So that was the whole idea of that silly story. All right, so double click on the rocket class to view the source code. Okay, I just showed you how to do that. So you double click. So if you double click on the class, or you can right click and say open editor, either way. And then you're going to open up the source code. You're going to scroll around until you find gun reload time equals 25 and change it to 5. Change the rocket class source code to the gun. Hit compile. What did you just do? Well, what you just did is you changed the Java source code, and you changed the class, and you changed the blueprint. Add 3 rockets to the world and play. What is the difference? Well, as you know, the difference is going to be that every rocket is going to be faster. All right, so let's jump back just to make sure you understand. Okay, what would be a faster way to get 1,000 cars with a turbocharger? You change the blueprint. That's what we just did. So we went to the Java source code. We changed the blueprint of the rocket. We turbocharged the gun reload time, made it faster. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so compile again. Whenever you make changes, you need to compile it, and sometimes some of the new ones automatically compile. In the old days, we'd have to hit the compile button, but you've got to the code has to be compiled in the machine language before it works. Okay. Okay, so now what I want you to do is on the handouts, there are there are 2 slides on the handouts, and it sums up what we learned, and I want you to write down 2 intelligent questions about what you read. If we were live, we would know it. Since we're doing this on the video, you can't ask it. But anyway, do that anyways. So here's what the last two slides look like. Read those for understanding. You can email me questions if you need to. So, okay. And that is it for that video. Thank you.